Hey, welcome to Flow Chicks. It's Ken. I hope everyone is ready for the holidays. Today, I wanted to release just a quick video on some thoughts about, well, really the arm and the arm movement. I want you to think of these concepts here because a lot of times when we're thinking about nunchucks, we're always thinking about the techniques that we're doing, and which is fine. It's good to think about the techniques, but start also thinking about how you can create obstacles and how you can get around obstacles. I think a lot of the most interesting moves, such as like this move here, for instance, is simply just a figure eight, but it's sliding through the obstacle of the arm. Start thinking how you can introduce obstacles into your flow. At first, it may seem like something's in the way. For instance, if you practice even with walls as obstacles or as objects as obstacles, if you practice with this, you're gonna come up with creative ways that you gotta get around it. Again, the example could be this. Now, I want to give you just some concepts and thoughts to think about how you can get through obstacles. And I'm just going to use my arm, but this could be anything. It could be a remote control for your television. It could be a rope. It could be a ladder. I mean, it could be just about anything. What I want you to do is just start thinking about looking at objects and seeing how you can use it as part of your flow besides the chucks. So quite simply though, at the most fundamental level, let's just think of some basics here. If my arm is sticking out, what can I do to make this more interesting? So right now this is just a circular spin, right? And I could do a hand roll with it, which would be nice. But if I use the other hand, it makes it a little bit more interesting because both sides are being used. So let's just go over this. There's one thing we can do with an obstacle is we can roll the chuck around it. So if this was, for instance, a pole, or if you're even talking like a stair, you know, like a handrail for a staircase and it's going downwards, you can roll a chuck through like that, just like I can roll it through here. So one of the options you can do is roll it through. And a good example, the easiest way to think about this, I usually try to get to the opposite side so the rope wraps underneath, so when I let go, the nunchuck's already spinning over the top, and that's going to kind of solidify that roll. If you let go with the nunchuck going down, it usually just falls to the ground because it doesn't have enough upward motion. So I usually try to go off to the side when I do my placement, so it's going upwards. You can roll through it. Now, what else can you do with it? You could stall through it. So similar to a roll, except for this time, we're not even going to touch the chuck. We're just going to stop it right outside of the object like this. So you could do a roll. You could do a stall, and you can also combine them together. You could do a roll into a stall. That could be a really nice combo. You just roll it across and stall, and then do another move. Or you can do a roll, stall, stall, and do your move. You can see, I mean, you know the possibilities are endless. You can hold it out, do an up stall underneath, and then do a roll underneath it. So we've got the roll, we've got the stall. We also have, if it turns, of course, you can use that into consideration too. That's more of like the syncopated type stuff. Now, obviously, a rail will not turn with you, but what will turn? Your wrist. So you can think syncopated, which is very similar to a roll, except for you're putting a placement on something where it's matching the speed of whatever's rotating before you catch it again. There could be other things I haven't thought about with this one. That's up to you, but that's just something to consider. So we can do a syncopated, a roll, and a stall. Now, what else can we do? Well, we can completely dodge the obstacle by throwing through it too. Now, there's a lot of different throws. I tend to find, like, especially when there's obstacles, I like to do stalls and throws through obstacles. Again, if this was a handrail or something like that, or if there's some sort of pole in the way, I could stall here, roll it under, and throw it to the other side. Now, the trick to get the throws right is right before you let go, you pull the direction you want it to go. So this is a good practice, is if you have a chuck, wait for it to almost go completely up and pull it backwards, and then practice how much distance you need in order to pull it through. So now we have stalls, we have rolls, whoops, we have syncopated motions, and then we have throws. And just see what kind of things you can do with all that. There's one more, which I find is pretty simple, which is the bounce. Now the bounce, again, if you think about like hyper style bounces, boom, 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 you can use this on inanimate objects. It's usually a little bit easier with your body because you can kind of control where your hand moves to get the most optimal spot to bounce it. Generally speaking though, if you want to bounce it against an inanimate object, you're probably aiming for somewhere slightly below the balance point. So you got this balance point here, you're going to aim for probably right about here or so. If you get the balance point, sometimes it'll try to wrap around if you're too far up the chuck. So you're going to try to bounce it across something where it's just slightly below it, and that will cause the ricochet. Now the cool thing about this is, say there's a pole next to me, I could do different combinations I can basically add, it's just considering it like an extra arm. I don't have the pole with me, so you just have to imagine if there's a pole to my side and I do these bounces here, I can also reach out and bounce it over to the other side, or we can do the stalls too, but right now I'm just kind of showing you this example. Boom, boom, we can bounce it off the pole and back, and use that as just like an extra appendage. So with all of that said, you can come up with some fantastic combos. You can be like boom, boom, stall the other side to that pole, you know, and then throw it under the pole and catch it. And I don't know, just so many different ways that you can use objects around you. So instead of seeing objects as obstacles, try to see if you can use it in your flow for the next time. I think that'd be super creative. And you know, after 10 years, I'm always trying to think of new and creative ways to teach you something fresh. And I don't think we've really touched much on objects. So give it a shot, let me know. Hope you guys are having an amazing December. As always, thanks for your patience. Finger's still healing, it doesn't straighten out yet. It's probably gonna be some months before I'm fully back up, but I'm good enough to make some videos. Hope you guys are doing well, and yeah, send me a message, I'll talk to y'all soon.